Welcome to the Predictable Revenue Podcast, where frontline sales leaders teach you how to build and scale an outbound sales team. Welcome back to the Predictable Revenue Podcast. I'm your host, Collin Stewart, and today I am joined from somebody on the other side of the pond, Oliver Williamson. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Collin. How are you?
I'm doing great. I got the sort of sexy, raspy voice happening right now.
Lucky me.
Hopefully, this is just for you, man. It's totally not sickness related at all. I'm just trying to seduce you. I'm excited to have this conversation today because Oliver's the head of sales over at CircuitHub, and we'll get into a little bit what they do a bit later. But really, the experience he's had that got me excited about having him on the show was taking a new product to market. And we're not going to take like the product management angle or the like how to create a new product. But really the piece I'm excited about is the sort of journey of what does that early sales team look like? How you got to know the founder, how you built out the sales team in the early days, and then how that sales team evolved to what you're doing now.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good.
So before we jump into the meat, talk to me, can you give me the backstory? How did you get to CircuitHub?
Well, how did I get there? So I started off in sales pretty much straight from school, and my first jump into sales was within financial services. I worked for a fintech investment business called City Index, and I joined them when I was about 21 and spent about five or 6 years there, just from a sales rep to a senior sales rep. Becoming a team leader, sales manager, and then ultimately running sales for the group there. So that's kind of what from my new to sales to managing sales. And I worked with a startup after that, going from a seed stage, new idea called a company called QuickUp. And I spent a few years there and up until their Series B. And I joined CircuitHub 2.5 years ago now, and that's where I am now. We're doing some pretty cool things. So CircuitHub is a printed circuit board manufacturer, which sounds pretty boring, but we're like making it a little bit more exciting. So we're doing it like completely differently. So we are using software, automation, robotics to just make the whole process like super quick. And like just reducing the price down due to automation and just doing some cool things. But that's kind of that's my journey to CircuitHub. I can go into any more detail about any specific like the path, or I can go straight into CircuitHub, whatever you think.
Yeah, I mean, part of me is like, let's talk about circuits. I work for a company that did like custom PLC programming a long time ago, and I worked for one of their divisions, and so I got a sense for a little bit of that taste for. But I don't think that's maybe not what the audience is looking for today. Yeah. I'm curious with the journey at CircuitHub. You actually met with the founder before you even started with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going through. I made a decision that I was kind of looking for a new role, and I was pretty granular about what I was looking for my next position. And obviously when you build up 10, 15 years of experience in your career, you know what you like and you know what you don't like. And I read this book it's a very popular book called What Color's Your Parachute? And it's about your next career goal. And I kind of wrote down exactly the stage of company I wanted to work for, the size of company and all of these different things I kind of broke it down into like a list of companies and reached out to a few CEOs, and I met with our CEO, Andrew. It just clicked straight away. And I was like, this is the company I want to work for. And we had a number of conversations there. I did a bit of persuading and ultimately landed what for me is like a dream job, really.
And that's awesome. And I love how sort of before getting into this, it was more about like you had that conversation with the founder about, here's what I want to do. Is this going to fit within your organization? Mm-hmm. Right? So like from the get-go, you're sort of aligned on the why we're doing this. Yeah. Why are you hiring somebody awesome? Why are you why are you hiring somebody awesome? Why are you coming to this company? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you got those two pieces sort of aligned. And I think the number of people, whether they're, hiring in an early stage company, or they are sort of taking a role at sort of any company, a book like What Colors Your Parachute is a great place to start if you're looking for a role, and then putting thought into, okay, why am I hiring a salesperson or a sales leader, and what do I want them to do? Is an awesome place to start.
Yeah.
And so, can you talk to me a little bit about the early days?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I'll say before that is actually before I started, so the super early days, a couple of weeks before I started, just to get on the same wavelength with our CEO, I was like, any materials I should be reading? And he just read this book called Predictable Revenue. And so he's like, I should read that. And I read this book called Predictable Revenue, and started listening to the podcast. And that's been like a good guiding force for me throughout like our journey at CircuitHub. So it's cool to be part of the podcast now, and like sharing how we kind of use a lot of the materials from your previous episodes, and like putting that into our playbook. So that's cool.
Cool. Thanks for the plug, by the way. I'll send you that 20 quid later.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
To the early days. So, when I joined the company, so the company's actually been around for a little while. So it's a Y Combinator company. So it went through YC a good number of years ago now, and it's very much been an R&D business. So the idea was born by our CEO, who was an electrical engineer, and found like the pain point of getting circuit boards made is like, it seems like it should be easy, just order some boards, design the boards, get it made. And he just found like the pain point of getting those boards made like really difficult. And he thought that it shouldn't be so difficult. So he thought that you could use software to really improve that process. Had a small team together, went through YC, then picked up some investment from the likes of Google Ventures and some more strategic angels. And over a number of years, a couple of years, that they just been kind of proving out like from the software point of view, and then starting to look at the manufacturing side. And when I joined the business 2.5 years ago, there was a funding round, which was, okay, prove that you can make circuit boards and prove that you can sell circuit boards, and through your weird process that you're doing it, right? So I joined the team where it was there was a little bit of revenue coming in, but it was now, okay, one arm of our mission is to go out and prove that you can sell it. And so the team was very early on, was myself, and I joined the business as a head of sales, but I was like salesman one of one. We had an account exec as well that joined at the same time, and we were kind of just figuring out that process together. And so the early days were us trying to identify who we should be selling to, the type of businesses that could use our product and service. Well, we knew that businesses could use our services because circuit boards is not a new thing. So we're talking about a new product. We're talking about a completely new way of doing things, but it's an established product in the market. So circuit boards is not something brand new. And so we kind of knew that there was a big market to go after, but we were doing things very differently. So we wanted to find your early adopters, and who that could be, and like what messaging do we do, like what's the methodology? Should we be doing email? Should we be doing calls? Should we be doing LinkedIn? And so we just tried out a load of different things, really. And ultimately where we landed was doing a lot of email outreach, and we were like casting the net wide, and we were finding more success, not necessarily going directly to a decision maker, but to an influencer. So going to an engineer that perhaps was designing the circuit board, but wasn't actually ordering a circuit board, but because the phase that he was at in the design stage and how our product works, they were able to like kind of test out our services and realize what we were doing. And that was really cool. And it was easier to get buy-in from perhaps a bit earlier on in the sales journey. And we found a lot more success actually going at engineer level rather than necessarily VP of engineering level. If that makes sense.
And I think I totally get it. And like, I can see how this would work for you, and I can see how it would totally fail for another company.
Oh yeah.
You can, with the, like what you're competing against, there's no market risk here. You know, people want and need custom circuit boards. What the risk here is just a different way of doing this thing. So you know that there's need there. And I think the advantage that you had going in was that you can get to that magic moment of sales, that aha moment of your product really quickly and cheaply, especially compared to your competitors.
Yeah.
Right. Like with the competitors, there's a huge design process, and there's a huge manufacturing process, and there's a huge bill attached to that. My understanding, the brief understanding I have, is like you allow them to get there like way, way quicker.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was just going to say, so that's why this sort of approach. I just want to add some context, my thoughts around why this worked. And I'm not saying, hey, anybody that's selling anything to engineers, you got to go direct to the engineers, because it could both win, and like it could be a great success like Oliver had, or you could be just met with crickets.
Absolutely.
Sorry, and you were going to add something there.
Yeah, no, I would say that typically if you go to an organization, like how traditionally like circuit boards are made, it might be not even a VP level, but it might be someone in purchasing or procurement, and they go through that process, and it's like the very rigid way of doing things, and it's quite a lengthy process. And so how we've done it is with the use of software, and you can just drag and drop your files, and you're like, boom, there's a quotation, and that would have taken you 2 weeks rather than 2 minutes. And so we're kind of just going directly to the guy or girl just designing that board, and then they're using it as a tool throughout their design phase, like seeing how much this board would cost them, and it's working well from that point of view. And we're finding that going at that level, okay, it doesn't work every single time, but it allows us to really cast that net wide, because you might have in a large organization 100 people doing a specific role, which could be using your product. And you might have just one VP of engineering, or you might have one specific procurement person, and these guys are the ones kind of our advocates internally promoting our product or service.
And I like that you started with a sort of low cost, low yield strategy of like, we're just going to email people.
Yeah.
As opposed to, here's the, we're going to, triple touch on the first day, call, email, social, et cetera.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not that I have anything against those strategies. I think those work super well.
Yeah.
But when you're super early like this, you need to be able to, you're not in like, I don't think you're even in sales mode, right? You're not in go-to-market mode yet. You're in like figure shit out mode, right? Which is sort of like an extension of the product management process. And like, especially with early days teams, you need to sort of test and validate. Okay, our product team the product management team, they have all these hypotheses. We've got some early customers. Early customers probably came from the network of the founders, which is where, most new customers come from.
Sure.
Now what we need to do is sort of validate those ideas, right? Here we have some case studies. Let's see if we won these on our merits versus just because, Oliver's got a mate who works here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's exactly that. And like, even though we've been doing it for a couple of years, it's, I would completely agree in terms of like, we're still figuring things out. We really are. And we're onboarding reps in the moment, and they keep coming with these like great ideas. Oh, we should be doing this with LinkedIn. We should be doing this with, and it's like, okay, well, we need to be doing all of these things. But right now, like we have this, because we're not necessarily going at a director level as our decision maker, we're going at engineering level. It means there's a huge amount of opportunity and what's the most efficient way of doing things. And we're finding that email is just working very well just to get to the heart. But we need to go multi-channel. Like that's inevitable. We need to be working more at building out case studies, working more on our content, introducing phone calls, like doing more on social, like that's just going to help us like penetrate the market and make sure that we're like really winning with who we want to win with. But yeah, like it's exciting that we're managing to get the success we're getting now by just going, you know, single or a dual channel approach with sales.
For sure. And I think when, like, if you could plot it along like a horizontal line of like certainty of like target market certainty, right? From like 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And if you said, you know, our certainty about the target audience is 0, well, then you want to go like super low yield, low cost. And when I say low cost, I mean, it's a low investment in terms of time, resources, not like you actually have like you're putting quarters in the back of an SDR, right? But like low cost, so you can send a whole bunch of emails at a very low cost per email, right? And that's a great place to start when you're in this sort of discovery phase.
Yeah.
Once you have a high certainty, once you sort of move down the continuum and you say, okay, I've got a very, 90% certainty that these target accounts are the right people for me to go after. Well, then I'm going to employ more of a sort of high cost, high yield, multi-touch, personalized, I'm on all the channels. Maybe I'm even sending you some things, it's all about sort of the time and place. It's not one or the other. One is better than the other. It's so context dependent. And so can you talk to me about, like, if we stay in the early days for a minute, like your first team, it was yourself and an account exec.
Yeah.
What was your next hire there and why?
So the next hire, so we went through a phase where actually we stayed the two of us for quite a while. And when I was saying, like, when I joined the organization, we wanted to prove two things: one, that you could sell it, and one, that you can make it. And so we joined, and we were doing pretty well pretty quickly. Like, we were like really surprised at how quickly an impact we were making. We were generating revenue. We were onboarding, revenue generating customers within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we were bringing on new customers like on a weekly basis very quickly. And whilst you're trying to figure out sales and we're trying to figure out, can we make these? Suddenly a lot of revenue's coming in, and hey, we've got to deliver circuit boards here. So we were having to figure that out as well. And so we kind of proved the sales aspect a bit earlier than we thought we would. And it took us a little bit longer from the production side of things. So we needed to balance that out, because that's how manufacturing works. You sell it, you make it. You don't keep selling it. It's not like software. You just keep firing out licenses. We're having to make sure that they're going at the same time. So we managed to equalize that. And then once we managed to equalize that, it's time to scale, right? So that is when we were thinking what the hiring process looked like. And so it's kind of evolved. So what I thought it would be and what it is quite different. So our plan was to have, your typical SDR, AE, AM sales structure. And where we had some confusion. So basically the first next hires with SDRs. We wanted to increase our coverage. So we hired 2 SDRs and we were having them focus on 2 different regions and making sure we're getting more global coverage from our sales point of view. But then the next challenge we had was, where is this handoff, this traditional handoff that you have with SDR to AE? And we were we couldn't really figure it out. So to give you some context, so what a sales process looks like for us is we go out, we engage with a potential customer, and we will typically provide some login details to our platform so they can have a bit of a play around with it. And they would then drag and drop their design files to get a quotation. Now, the magic aha moment is when they get the quotation, because it's how we do things is very different, because you don't from a traditional manufacturer, you don't drag and drop your design files. You download a file, you get an Excel spreadsheet, you send it off with some notes on an email to your contract manufacturer. So that whole process of taking your design files and putting it into a piece of software and getting a quotation straight away is the hard part. And in my mind, like the handoff would be, okay, get them to a quotation and then hand it off to an AE, and the AE can close the deal. And I think you might have talked recently on a recent podcast, you're talking about like order takers, AEs becoming order takers or something like that. I could be wrong. I could be like thinking of something completely different. But
it sounds like something I might say.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the idea would be like there's more context. Like you have to think about where the handoff is, and so we couldn't really figure out where this handoff was, and so we just kept running with like the hiring of the SDRs and kind of forgetting about the AEs. And we're bringing in the more senior salespeople to help out with the demos. So I would say that we would try and do a demo with everyone that wants one, but actually 1 in 5 customers that actually becomes an order taking customer, like will actually have a call with us. Like 4 out of 5, like we wouldn't actually speak to verbally over the phone. They would just buy, and like they're ordering like $10,000-$15,000 orders like every week or two. So it's amazing that like these engineers that just don't want to talk to you. So it's an interesting one. And so we just kind of rolled out with the SDR approach, and haven't really embedded an AE yet function, and we're just growing that. And what we've introduced is the account management function. So we're growing pretty heavily on the account management side of things, because we're bringing on all these customers. So we need some sort of maintenance of that. We don't have a traditional kind of customer success team right now. And we're going through like the rapid scaling stage right now. It's pretty intense. So we know that all of these things, we need to keep doing it, but we're also trying to keep the revenue coming in, and the model we're following is working.
So could I just help, just so I can like reiterate what you're saying is you've got the SDR, so the prospector, their job is to sort of, they're not necessarily closing, but they're trying to get them to that moment of, they're taking a first call, and then they're saying, hey, this is where you can like click and drag and get that instant quote. Are they like, is this all over email? Is there a demo involved? Like, help me understand, paint me a word picture, please.
Okay. So the success would be getting them to upload a project. So
gotcha.
What the flow looks like is you reach out to a potential customer, you engage with them in some sort of way. So typically it's via an email response and an email communication. So sometimes it's a phone call. It's rare that it's a phone call. And where we were we were playing around at that stage of what's the next point? What's our first close? Is it let's go in for a demo and showcase our product to the customer or the potential customer? Or do we want to provide them with access to our platform and let them figure it out themselves? And we were working with like these call to action, like these 2 call to actions. And what we were finding is people preferred to figure it out themselves as opposed to take the demo. Now, a lot of people, we would still want to go for the demo, but we would be asking for it afterwards. Yeah. So we're trying to. Sorry, Karen.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm just trying to understand. So your SDRs aren't at this stage. They don't even having a call with them. They're just sort of like reaching out. Hey, this is what we do. Sound interesting? The engineer's like, yep, that's great. They're like, cool. Here's your login details. Yeah. And then once they're activated, then you've got more of an account manager who's jumping in. And
so the account manager actually comes in after the first order. So where we were having this kind of the gray area of like, where do you introduce the AE? And this is where, whilst I was figuring it out, it was turning out the SDRs were actually by getting them to the stage of them uploading, that's kind of the hard work done, and customers were just placing an order after that. And it was like this, where it's like, do we really need to put this function in at this moment in time? Now we will need to, because we want to optimize conversion from upload to order. But in terms of that process that we were doing it, we were getting an SDR to get to the stage of getting them to upload and get a quotation from us. That we
if there's no demo, if there's no demo, if there's no selling, then you don't need to, you're not required to bring an AE in at that stage, I guess. Like, I'm sure it'll fit in there naturally at some point, but
it will. It's, I guess it's just an efficient way of doing things right now. And like I was saying earlier, like, everything's on the roadmap. We're like just trying to run as fast as we can. And right now, we want to, we have a volume-based sales approach, and we're managing to, like, a sales rep will get, an SDR will get, 1-2 people every single day to that stage of uploading a project. And so an SDR will be bringing in 4 or 5 customers a month, like paying customers, and just going through this sales-based model. So where, I guess, when we'll kind of look at things from a strategic point of view is, when things settle down a bit in a few months' time, when we're going through all this, when we finished all the kind of the rapid hiring processes, okay, where can we optimize conversion rate? Can we put a resource in here? Can we put a different sales process in? So do we do a bit more calling to optimize the conversion? Do we start pushing a little bit more for the demo earlier? We trial out that with A/B testing. So there's a lot we should be doing, a lot we could be doing, but right now, what we're doing is working, and it's an efficient process. So I'm loath to break it whilst it feels like every week I'm onboarding a new person or 2 new people. So,
And you've got some aggressive hiring goals for next year, which is pretty interesting. And I mean, this is one of those things, like, the reason I'm not super dogmatic about, well, you got to specialize and you got to do this and you have to follow exactly the model, is like, every company is unique. Every sales process and customer is sort of unique, and you gotta take the good parts of, books and podcasts and like make it your own. Just because we're talking about best practices, or just, here's one way to do it. It's not that here's the one way to do it. It's like, one of the reasons why we wanted to have this podcast is because there's no one right way to do things. There are, an infinite number of combinations. And so every SDR team in its makeup is a little bit unique.
Absolutely. But if we sit down in a year's time, I'm almost 100% sure I'm going to be advocating the multi-channel approach, just saying you've got to call them, you've got to make sure you're on LinkedIn, messaging them, you've got to be following them on Twitter. You want to be looking at all these channels, but I'm just saying right now it's working. So
for sure,
I'm not complaining, right?
And there's like that sort of early stage. It's all kind of fuzzy. We're just trying to get something done. And then there's the maturity where, okay, we need to bring in some more layers of management. We need to get a bit more strategic and tactical about it. Staying in the early stage for a minute there, I'm curious, initially you talk about, you sent some emails. How did you figure out sort of who you were going after and what to say to them?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that there's anything abnormal with, or like really unique with how we did things. So who did we figure out? How do we figure out who to speak to? So that was who could potentially use our product. So someone that designs circuit boards would be an obvious person, that what we believed would be a suitable person to do it, because the early testing of our product, those were the people that gravitated towards using our product. And so then we use LinkedIn to look for keywords with people that were designing circuit boards and the job title that they held. And so that's kind of our first exploration with who we should be targeting. So keyword research on LinkedIn that was aligning with our early adopters. And then how do we figure out what we would say to them? Again, I wouldn't say there's any magic bullets here. It was, okay, what makes a good sales email? So a subject line that makes someone think, hey, this person's not selling me something, I should open it. and a first line, which looks, somewhat intriguing. You know, present your product in a clear and concise way, like identifying the pain points and having a very low commitment call to action. So don't ask for anything too big, and take it from there. And then we were getting pretty good response rates off the back of that. Now that was kind of our mentality. Now there was a lot of trial and error. So I'm a huge advocate of like A/B testing extremely to make sure we're optimizing the content that goes in an email. But that is kind of the core of what kind of the approach was, and then it was just a question of iterating off the back of that.
Gotcha. And where did some of that early knowledge come from? Were you sitting down with your CEO? Was there product people involved? Like, what did that look like?
So our CEO is all things to all men in terms of what he was doing in the company when I joined. So he was the sales, he was the head of engineering, he was a software developer, he was our CFO, he was everything, right? So yeah. But primarily he was the guy speaking to customers and finding those early adopters and bringing on our first few customers. So I was working with him to really get a clear understanding of what potential customer could look like. And it wasn't hard to get there, because it was quite clear that you can't, like, you either need circuit boards or you don't need circuit boards. You can't sell circuit boards to someone that doesn't need them. Mm-hmm. So you just have to figure out who that was.
There's no like luxury circuit board market of like, independent people that are like, what, I think I just want to design my own circuit board just because.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's you need to find who it is. And then like what we believe is we're solving a pain point that certainly our CEO as a previously as an electrical engineer found this pain point. And hey, we're highlighting that pain point while selling our product or service to these guys, and it kind of works. Like it's there's no like magic that we do that like in terms of a content point of view or of a special like type of research we're doing. We just work at it and we test things and we run with what works.
Perfect. And so fast forwarding out of that sort of earlier stage, and talk to me a little bit about like what your team evolved into, right? So we started with the two individual individual salespeople. One of them was yourself. Mm-hmm. One of them was the AE. Yeah. You've added some SDRs.
Yeah.
What is your, like, let's fast forward to today. What does the team composition look like, and sort of how did you get there?
So the team is comprised now of SDRs and account managers. So we got hunters and we got farmers, and people don't like to, I keep using the word farmers. People don't like to be called farmers. So I still call them hunters to their faces. So it's better to, I've learned from using the term farmers, but for the sake of this episode, I don't need to, it's a good analogy to work with. So we've got hunters going out there and they're SDRs, and we keep growing that function until we've got global coverage, and then I will start really looking at optimizing conversion from introducing an AE function. So our current team is SDRs and AMs, and that will maintain for at least, I would say, the next quarter, and with the exception of introducing customer success into the function. So my role of head of sales, it's kind of looking after everything customer facing. So that would include your customer success and all of those sort of areas of the business.
Gotcha. Okay. And so I guess kind of leads naturally into like, what is, like, when we talk to you in a year, what's the team going to look like? What are the changes that you're planning on making? Are you sorry, go ahead.
So I would say that I would follow the idea would be like, what will it definitely look like is, I couldn't tell you 100%. What do I think it's going to look like is, we will, once we've got club coverage, from a territorial point of view, I will be, actually, forgive me, I should tell you that we've got an enterprise sales rep as well, like looking at the higher end of the market. And that's like a really interesting space for us as well, because, you know, big customers with deep pockets is not a bad thing to have. Mm-hmm. And so what I would say is that we will just be segmenting our territories based on, you know, mid-market, enterprise, SMB segment, SDRs, and then introducing an AE to optimize conversion from, well, where that conversion sits. Does it sit at quotation to order? Does it sit at interest level to prior to a first quotation? Maybe we play around with it. So I would say I would hope that by the end of the year we would be perhaps 40 to 50 reps, and that would be comprised of a team of a lot of SDRs, some AEs, and a good number of AMs. And there would be split based on market size of what they're focusing on. So,
gotcha. And then just for context, what's the relative size of the team right now?
Team is 11 now.
So we're talking about a pretty monumental jump here.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we're going through, like it was smaller than it was a month ago, and it's going to be, you know, twice the size in a few months. So we're going through, we've got some ambitious plans, and we're in a fortunate position where, as an organization, we reach profitability, which is always a good thing. And so we're fortunate to get to a stage where we can grow in an efficient way, and our sales cycle isn't so long that we have to wait a long time to see ROI. So there isn't a reason why we can't put our foot on the gas unless something really breaks.
That's totally fair. It's a great spot to be in, and I know physically the spot that you're in is not on the same time zone as I am. I think you're on the not other side of the world, but it's getting pretty close to midnight. So I don't want to keep you literally all night. Yeah. I do want to move to the sort of lightning round now and get some last, pull some last bits of knowledge out of you. So for your reps, how do you get people to reply to your emails?
And make it easy. Like, don't ask for any high commitment. So I would say that when we say, oh, let's hop on a call, you know, getting on the phones can be scary sometimes. So like, to the customer, like, they don't want to have a call sometimes. So let's ask for something a bit easier. So I ask for, like, who should we be speaking to? It's a great CTA, and it kind of works. So that's what we do. We just ask for something easy to respond to.
I love it. And how do you handle the brush off on a cold call?
We change the subject of, like, exactly what we're selling to what might interest them. So if someone says, okay, I'm not interested, I'm happy with my current supplier, I would say, absolutely fine, totally out of interest. What design tool are you using at the moment? Again, back on the product rather than on the sale. And then we can talk about how our product works with that design tool and how that's completely different to everything else. And I'll be like, do you want to give it a try? I can just send some login details so you can try it out for yourself whenever you get some time.
Mm-hmm. Love it. And then when it comes to the end of the quarter and you need to push, what do you do?
We pray. No, right. Well, the challenge is because we're selling an on-demand product, and you can't ram circuit boards down someone's throat. If you're pushing for the end of the quarter to hit a number, you're about 3 months too late. So so really, yeah. When I say we pray, like that's what we do. Like, we hope that like the order that someone needs right now, because unfortunately it's like a supply chain thing. And we say, all right, you need circuit boards. Like when someone needs circuit boards, they say, I need them in 2 days. So like that's how our business works.
Beautiful. And yeah, I totally get that. And so when it's coming near the end of the previous quarter, that's when you're like, okay, what do I have in pipeline for next quarter?
Exactly. Yeah.
Just thinking ahead. I like it. All right. Last segment here. So cold call me. So like, let's set the role here. What, who am I? Where do I work? Like, what's the context of the call here?
So who are you? You are a design engineer and you work for perhaps a consumer electronics business, and you would need circuit boards.
Okay. I'm going to channel my father-in-law, who's an engineer. I'm gonna put my glasses on, calculator at the ready, get a couple pencils tucked into my front shirt pocket, and I'm ready to go. Mm-hmm. Okay, ring, ring. Hey, this is Collin.
Hey, Collin, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I wanted to give you a call from CircuitHub. We're a PCB manufacturer, and we wanted to see what your outlook looks like in terms of the next PCBs you're looking to have made.
We've got an order coming up with large circuit board manufacturer company next month.
Oh, really? Okay, great. And have you decided on who you're going to be using?
I think we're going to use competitor X.
Okay. And is that because you have an established relationship? Is it that you're getting a good price?
Yeah, we've got a good relationship. We basically use them for all of our boards.
Okay. And what would make you look around for someone else?
We haven't been looking.
Okay. All right, cool. So the primary reason I really wanted to introduce our product to you is that we're kind of revolutionizing PCB manufacturing, and we're speaking to a lot of organizations like yourself that ultimately we're making things a hell of a lot easier. And in terms of reducing the price, speeding up the time. And we really wanted to just give the opportunity for you to have a look at our platform and perhaps get a quotation. It takes 2 minutes, and just check it out and see what you think.
It sounds great.
Great. Well, let me send you over some login details, and you can have a bit of a play with it, and then we can catch up, and you can let me know what you thought.
It sounds great, Oliver. Cool. Right on, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show. This has been a blast, and I really appreciate you staying up so late after the kids have gone to bed and hanging out with us.
My pleasure. I enjoyed it.